It's an antichrist civilization that will usher in the Antichrist. One that has known God, one that has once known Messiah, but has turned away from him. That is far more dangerous than a pagan civilization. And he says this, she who is in Babylon, chosen with you, sends you greetings, and so does my son Mark. Greet one another with a kiss of love. Peace be to all of you in Messiah. What's the significant thing for end-time prophecy? Or could it be? Or Peter is signing off, and he mentions she who is in Babylon. Babylon. Now, he may be referring to his wife, Mrs. Peter, because it says, you remember that Paul said, do I not have the right to bring a believing wife along with me like Peter does? Peter is signing off. Now, if it's literal, he'd be talking about an ancient city in Mesopotamia, Babylon. Now, I'm not completely ruling that out, however. There's some problems with taking that literally. Because number one, we don't have any record of Peter ever going there. In the earliest histories of the church, they have a lot of things, but nothing about that. Babylon was a shell of what it had once been at that time. It was in many ways deserted outside of the Roman Empire under the possession of the Persians. It would seem very unlikely for the fishermen of Galilee, Peter, to go about 1,000 miles to a place in the middle of nowhere. But there is a place that is much more likely for him to have traveled to, and that would have been the capital of the empire in which he lived, in which there was a massive movement of people coming to the Lord, believers, and who were under persecution, where Paul also traveled, called Rome. The histories we have of Peter all speak of him going to Rome. If so, then what is Babylon? Babylon, in that case, would be a name, a spiritual name of Rome. In the same way, Hollywood has been called Babylon, New York City has been called Babylon. The name of Babylon speaks of the kingdom of man in rebellion against the kingdom of God, as starting with the Tower of Babel. It'd be a very Jewish thing to call Rome Babylon, and Rome was called Babylon. We know that in the early part of the age. So why is that important? What does that have to do with Revelation? Well, in Revelation 17, it says, verse 4, the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls, holding in her hand a gold cup filled with abominations, unclean things of sexual immorality. And on her forehead the name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. And she's drunk, it says, with the blood of the saints, persecution. Well, the Bible speaks of an end-time entity, an evil power, a system called Babylon. Verse 9 of that chapter says, here is the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains upon which the woman sits. 7 mountains or hills in the ancient rendering. Rome is called the city on 7 hills or 7 mountains. In fact, in the reign of Emperor Vespasian, who's the emperor who oversaw the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, first century, he minted a Roman coin. A Roman coin was minted that has an image of Rome as a woman sitting on 7 hills, kind of like this in Revelation. Now, the woman here is depicted drunk with the blood of the saints, and it was Rome that became the first great world power to persecute believers. It's recorded that Peter and Paul were both killed there in Rome under the persecution. Matthew 24:30 says this, then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky. All the people of the earth will cry out in agony when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds. Now, what's significant here? All the people of the earth will cry out when they see the Son of Man coming. Why is that significant? Well, one of the reasons is this. It says all the earth will see this. Well, think about that. That implies the entire world is seeing a single event in real time. How could that happen? Back then it could never have happened. But only in the 20th century was it even possible for that to happen. That the whole world could view an entire event, a single event at the same moment. And so far, even now, it's even more so than it was in the 20th century. You had satellites. Now you have everybody on cell phones where you would see it instantly. Everybody's connected. Which goes also with other things that appear in the book of Revelation that speaks of the same dynamic. The 2 witnesses die, or they're killed, and the whole world reacts immediately. How? I mean, back then it would take days and days for anything to know. Immediately, only if the world is joined together as one. The beast causes all to buy or sell with a mark, with one mark. How could they do that? They could never do it back then. You need a one world global system involving every financial transaction in the world. That was not possible ever until just about now. You could never do it. You could never monitor it. You could, except with computers. So what is it? It's talking about a one world state, but everything is implicit that there is going to be a one world state. Revelation and the things that Messiah says. Now let's move to the Antichrist. I'm going as fast as I can because I have a lot. John 5. Did Messiah say anything that could relate to the Antichrist? John 5 verse 43. I come in my Father's name and you don't receive me. But if another comes in his own name, you will receive him. He is the Messiah. And he's saying, you're not receiving me as the Messiah. I come in the name of the Father. But if another one comes in his own name, you'll receive him. The implication is as Messiah. Now, a century later, a guy rose up called Bar Kokhba. He came in his own name. His name, Bar Kokhba, was supposed to mean son of the star. He was received as the Messiah by masses of Jewish people in the land, and a key rabbi said this is the Messiah. He led the Jewish people in one more revolt against Rome. It ended with total destruction. Others have risen up in the Jewish world as Messiah. The other most famous man was a guy called Shabbat Zevi. He rose up in the year 1666. It gives you a little hint there, 666. Interesting, masses followed him in the nations. But then he started acting weird. He had a wedding where he married a Torah scroll. Then he was arrested by the Turkish Sultan and told, convert to Islam or die. So he converted. He came in his own name, and yet he was accepted. It's been estimated, I haven't checked it out, but it's been estimated that there have been about 64 false messiahs who have risen up to the nation of Israel since Jesus. But the word for Messiah in Greek is Christos, or the Christ. The word for instead of or substitute guy is anti. So antichrist. Ultimately, when Messiah speaks of false messiahs, they are antichrists. They are false messiahs. The Antichrist is the anti-Messiah. He comes as the Redeemer of Israel and the world. And note, he will come in his own name. The Antichrist will come in the name, he'll be self, he'll be everything, not in anything else. So as the foreshadower of the Antichrist, there's a foreshadow in ancient times, and it's linked to Hanukkah, which we're going to be celebrating at the end of the month. We're going to go through that mystery. But the guy's name was Antiochus Epiphanes. He was a king who tried to wipe out the Jewish faith. He's the first exact, real shadow of the Antichrist, and his name means Antiochus, God manifest. He came in his own name. And the Antichrist, what it's kind of speaking, that ultimately what he said there applies to any false Messiah, but ultimately to the Antichrist. That the Antichrist will be accepted, and he'll be accepted by the world in the link to the rejection of Jesus. Because it says, you don't accept me, but you're going to accept him. So it's going to be a civilization that has known Messiah, but has turned away from him, that will open the doors to the Antichrist. You see, it's an antichrist civilization that will usher in the Antichrist. One that has known God, one that has once known Messiah, but has turned away from him. That is far more dangerous than a pagan civilization. And we can see it now coming about. We can see it in the makings. There's more, though, in the New Testament concerning this outside of Revelation about the Antichrist. 1 John 2 says, little children, it is the last days, as you have heard, the Antichrist shall come. Even now there are many Antichrists, whereby we know it's the latter days. 1 John 2:22, who is a liar? But he who denies that Jesus is the Messiah. He is the Antichrist that denies the Father and the Son. 1 John 4:3, every spirit that does not confess that Jesus, Yeshua, is the Messiah, the Christ, come in the flesh, is not of God. This is the spirit of Antichrist that you heard was coming, and it is now in the world. He's saying the spirit of Antichrist is already in the world, and those who are led by that spirit are little Antichrist, but there is an Antichrist to come. You see, as soon as Jesus came, the spirit of Antichrist came in the world. You can't have the spirit of Antichrist until you have the spirit of the Christ, because it's against what has come. So the Antichrist will exist to deny the Christ, the Messiah, as the enemy denies God. And so a civilization that has known God, as in a Christian civilization, that's going to be the most anti-Christian civilization. And you can even see now as what's leading the world in pornography, not the pagan world, the post-Christian world. What's leading the world in abortion? Spreading it to the world, post-Christian nations. What, like America, as part of that. What is spreading the war against gender and mutilation? It's the post-Christian, like Western Europe and particularly America. So that is the most dangerous thing. Now, the Apostle Paul most clearly identifies the Antichrist. This is 2 Thessalonians 2. This is what he says. We ask you, brethren, regarding the coming of our Lord Jesus, Yeshua the Messiah, and our gathering to him, that you don't be quickly shaken from your composure or be disturbed either by a spirit or a message or a letter from us, as if it was to the effect that the day of the Lord has already come. No one is to deceive you in any way, no one, for it will not come until the apostasy comes first, and then the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction. First will come apostasy, we're watching it now. Then will come the Antichrist. He's called the man of lawlessness, or the Greek trespass, transgression. He's one who breaks the boundaries. He breaks lines that have not been crossed. Is revealed. The word here is apocalypto, same word that names the book of Revelation, the removing of the veil. So the Antichrist is the opposite of the Christ, and also in this. You see, Messiah's coming ushers in the age of Messiah, the Christian age. But it's the apostasy, the falling away, that's going to usher in the Antichrist. An anti-Christian culture is going to usher in the Antichrist. So we're watching the beginning of that now. Also, the word for apostasy here, it can mean the falling away from your faith or your stand, but it can also mean the falling away from your state of being. In other words, when a civilization or culture falls away from the truth, from the gospel, they will also fall away from the state of being. Men will fall away from manhood. Women will fall away from the state of womanhood. Children will fall away from the state of childhood. Family from family. Humans from humanity. It will usher in the man of evil, the son of destruction. It says who opposes. Interesting. The word for oppose in Hebrew is the word we get Satan or Satan from. Satan means the opposer. So the Antichrist is the one who will oppose. The word for Antichrist here, it says who opposes, also means adversary, another name for Satan. That's going to be his father. Who exalts himself, Paul says, above all that is called God, all that is worship, which also sounds like Satan. In the prophets, the enemy says, I will ascend as the Most High. It reminds me of Daniel 11 when it speaks about Antiochus, Hanukkah, who's a foreshadow of the Antichrist. It says, the king will do as he pleases. He will exalt himself, boast against every god, and will say horrible things against the God of gods. It says he will show no regard for the gods of his fathers or anything else. And that's speaking of Antiochus, who's a shadow of the Antichrist, who desecrated the temple of Jerusalem. The Antichrist will exalt himself over everything that is worshipped. Paul goes on, so that he, as God, will sit in the temple of God. He will sit in the temple of God. Interesting. This matches what the enemy says. The enemy says in the prophets, I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mountain of assembly in the far north. I will sit on the mount of assembly. God's throne is in heaven, but it's also in the temple of Jerusalem, which is going to be rebuilt. The enemy will seek to sit on the temple mount through the Antichrist. He will sit, Paul says, he will sit in the holy place. Very significant. Holy place. The word in Greek is naos, which to Jewish ears tells them this is the temple of Jerusalem. Paul is saying the Antichrist will sit in the temple of Jerusalem, in the seat of God, probably in the Holy of Holies. Now, there are two words that can be used to speak of temple in the Greek. One speaks of the temple complex, the Temple Mount. The other one speaks just of that one building, the Holy and the Holy of Holies. That's what this word is speaking about. The Antichrist will go into the holy place, the Holy of Holies. And so just by this alone, it's telling you the temple of Jerusalem has to be rebuilt, because the Antichrist has to go to that temple. That's the only place. But now, right now, the Temple Mount is under Muslim control. And it would seem impossible, because there'd be like another world war if they build a temple. But you know, I've shared this, the land of Israel was under Muslim control. It was impossible for the Muslims are never going to let a Jewish nation come in the midst. But you know what? God does the impossible. Then came World War I, and God did the impossible. Jerusalem was under Muslim control, Jordanian control. There's no way on earth they're ever going to give it to the Jewish people. Impossible. But then God did the impossible. The 6-Day War, it happened. And so it's impossible for the temple to be built on the Temple Mount. But God has this tendency to do the impossible to fulfill the promise that he has given. Already in Israel, there are organizations set on rebuilding the temple. They're already rebuilding the objects of the temple. They found the red heifer not too long ago in Texas. 5 of them, 2 of them are definite. President Trump recognized Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel just a little while ago. And the thing is that, and they issued coins in Israel with pictures of Trump as Cyrus. Cyrus is the one who allowed them to rebuild their temple. So it's all moving. And the Jewish people are beginning to actually pray on the Temple Mount and not get kicked off. That was impossible a few years ago. We always used to sneak it, sneak that prayer. But they're doing it now, openly. And this past Feast of Trumpets, observant Jews smuggled shofars on the Temple Mount, blew them on the Temple Mount for the first time in 2,000 years on the Feast of Trumpets. The Antichrist will sit in the holy place and show himself as God. The Greek means demonstrate himself, prove himself, so something's going to happen up there. And this converges what Messiah said, Matthew 24, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation which was spoken of through the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, same thing. Let the reader understand. Those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. When you see the abomination doing what? Standing in the holy place. The Antichrist will sit in the holy place. The abomination will stand in the holy place. The abomination, the word for abomination in Hebrew is linked to the word for idol. An idol. Undoubtedly, it's an idol, which links up with Revelation 13, and he, of the false prophet, he deceives those who live on earth because of the signs given to him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who live on earth, make an image to the beast, who had the wound of the sword and came back to life. It was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast. So the image of the beast would even speak and cause all those who don't worship the image of the beast to be killed, and all to receive the mark of the beast. So he will make an image of the beast, the Antichrist. That image will appear to speak, whether that's technology, whether it's supernatural. It all goes along with the abomination, an idol set up. And Antiochus, the shadow of the Antichrist, actually set up an idol. But this is like magnified. An image, the man linked to the man of evil, who will sit in that temple, declare himself God, while the image is set up of him and the world worships him. It's so consistent. The Antichrist. The dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. On his horn were 10 crowns, on his head were blasphemous names. And the beast I saw was like a leopard, his feet like those of a bear, his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and a throne and great authority. I saw one of his heads as if it had been fatally wounded, and his fatal wound was healed. And the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. They worshiped the dragon because he gave his authority to the beast. They worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to wage war against him?" And a mouth was given to him to speak arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months. What is that? 3.5 years. Half of the tribulation. He opened his mouth in blasphemies against God. He blasphemed the tabernacle, blasphemed those who dwell in heaven. It's also given him to make war with the saints and overcome them, and given him authority over every people, tribe, language, and nation. And all those who live on earth will worship him. Everyone who has not been named, whose name has not been written in the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. The Antichrist. Who is he? We have to be careful. People have this kind of game about identifying the Antichrist. I'm not saying everybody who tries it's a game, but old phenomena, you got to be careful. People have been guessing this as long as I've been a believer, and long before. But since I've been a believer, King Juan Carlos of Spain, Mikhail Gorbachev with that mark on his forehead, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666, Henry Kissinger, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he survived a head wound. Who is he? The Antichrist will make Stalin and Mao and Hitler pale in comparison. He'll be far more evil, if you can imagine it, far more powerful, if you can imagine it. Where will he come from? He's linked to the Roman Empire in Revelation and in Daniel. In Daniel 9, when it speaks of the coming of Messiah and it speaks of the destruction of the temple of Jerusalem, it happened in 70 AD. It says, the people of the prince who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Then it goes on to speak of that ruler making a 7-year covenant, a tribulation period, and in the middle of it, turning on the temple, speaks of the desolation of the temple. That's the Antichrist. So how does it identify it? The people of the prince or the ruler, the Tsar, the ruler, who will come, will destroy the city and the temple, the sanctuary. Who destroyed the city and the sanctuary, the temple? The Romans did. So it means the Romans will be of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will somehow be joined to Rome. Does that mean he'll be from Rome? Perhaps. Or that he will rule from Rome? Perhaps. But that's a city. Rome was also an empire. So what was it? What did it include? The Mediterranean, North Africa, Turkey, Lebanon, parts of Syria, Jordan, Egypt, which are all now Muslim, but also Western Europe, including Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, France, parts of Germany, England, more, including a nation in the middle of it, of all these nations, Israel. He will likely come from these borders. Could he come from America? Perhaps, as much as America is descended from Western Europe, which is Rome, but more likely he would come from the lands of the Roman Empire somehow, if not Rome itself. Some people believe he's going to be Muslim. Could he be? It's possible, but other things would argue against it. First of all, he's connected to the city or the entity of Rome. The fact that he's the Antichrist and the most anti-Christian civilization, again, are those which have known Christ and have apostatized. Notice that, the greatest evils of modern times have come from the lands that were once Christian but turned away, like fascism from Italy, like communism from Germany and Russia, like Nazism from Germany, the land of the Reformation. The other thing is he will not worship any god like Muslims do. He will count himself above it. That more sounds like Europe, post-Christian, secular, even above everything. That doesn't sound Muslim. Communism is like that. Fascism is like that. Nazism is like that. Some believe the Antichrist will be Jewish. Well, the argument is that the Jewish people would only accept a Messiah who is Jewish. And if the Antichrist is going to substitute for Jesus, he'd have to be Jewish. But on the other hand, the whole world is going to worship the Antichrist. People of every nation, the whole world generally doesn't look favorably on Jews or Israelis. People of every nation, and the Antichrist will make a covenant with Israel, a deal. If he's part of Israel, how can he make a deal with himself? If he comes as the Jewish Messiah, as Jewish, it would not be like if he's the Messiah, he's the King of Israel, representing Israel to the world, not representing the world to Israel, which the Antichrist will do. And if he turns against Israel and persecutes the Jewish people, how could he be Jewish? Also the fact that he can't fulfill the prophecies of the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, that have already been fulfilled. He's not a duplicate of Messiah. He's the one who comes to replace the Messiah. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.